2 weeks ago, I made a video of a BFN Funny Moments video that I made for Mare, and similarly during that same video I talked about how I suffered from depression probably up to 3 weeks to maybe even a month, and the reason as to why I was gone because of that. But on top of that, I talked about a game I'd been playing for the past 3 weeks and how it had been helping me through this time. And today I want to talk about that very game, how it's helped me, and do a general review on the game. Anyone who's come here for a BFN related video, you're not going to find it here, and you're more than free to click off this video right now. But if anyone's curious about this game I'm about to talk about, or even wants to get a bit of a insighting into one of the games or the type of games I enjoy other than BFN, then you're more than welcome to stay. So today I'm going to be talking about the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. So get seated, strap up, get a drink and some food, because this is going to be a long one. And let's get ready to...
Hey, you're finally awake.
Son of a... Oh, so that's what I do. Character customization in games is something that all of us enjoy. It's become part of the whole modern regime of games, being inputted into multiple different shooters, and even being able to customize your skins in Minecraft. Well, that's always been something that's happened for a long time. But in Skyrim, customizations, the things that you would choose to wear or the character you choose to create, would all have an impact on how you would play the game. You see, Skyrim has multiple different races, including multiple different human races to elven races, even races which look like cats and lizards. Now, you might be wondering, well, how do these different races impact the game and how you play? Well, each race has their own active effects and their own powers. So for example, the Khajiit, or, well, cat people as you'd probably see them if you're not an Elder Scrolls fanboy, have an active effect where they're able to deal additional unarmed damage, meaning that fighting without a sword or, well, even an axe for that matter, is sometimes more powerful, including that they've also got the ability to see in the dark. Argonians on the other hand have the ability to, well, breathe underwater, which compared to every other race could be seen as an immediate positive, as you're not going to have to rely on, well, finding spells or any kind of potion to breathe underwater, because an Argonian can already do that. Or maybe one of the more human races, such as a Nord, has an active effect where they're 50% resistant to frost, meaning any ice-based attack is going to be 50% less effective to you. On top of that, Skyrim also has many skills which go towards the customization and creation of the character or characters that you make. For example, you've got light armor and heavy armor skills, one-handed weapons and two-handed weapons. You've also got archery, the ability to sneak, pickpocket, and also different types of magic such as restoration, destruction. And of course you've also got the ability of enchanting and the ability to mix up alchemical ingredients to make potions. And of course, the more you do these things, the more these things improve. But as these things improves, it further defines your character and isn't just a thing on the side like a class in a Plants vs Zombie shooter. You see, if you were to spend a lot of time wearing heavy armor and improve wearing that heavy armor, the moment you switch to light armor as a character specializing in heavy armor, you're gonna realize you're gonna end up getting killed very quickly. Similarly, if you were using a one-handed weapon and decided to switch to a two-handed weapon, you'd probably realize that you're not dealing as much damage as you would be using a one-handed sword. On top of that, of course, magic and stuff such as alchemy and enchanting would also follow the same principles. You see, unlike customization just being a basic thing in other games, in Skyrim is something more important, and I think that's something I really like about it. As I mentioned before, Skyrim also works in an area using skill, but let's talk about some of the items and spells that are tied to those skills. So for weaponry, I talked about the fact that you've got both one-handed and two-handed weapons, but it's not just the fact that these weapons are just swords. You've got axes, you've got maces, great swords, battle axes, and it's not just one type of those either. You've got different types made of different materials, which all have a different look to boot and different stats. On top of that, you've also got your armor. You've got light armor and heavy armor. Light armor allowing you to move faster on the battlefield but providing less protection, whilst heavy armor gives you more protection but weighs you down a bit more. And of course you've got your potions. You've got healing potions, you've got magic potions, you've got stamina potions, all potions that are tied to the three main bars that, well, links your gameplay. You've also got enchantments, which are something that you might not put on your, well, items during the first part of your playthrough, but later on you'll probably find out that they are a bit of an essential thing. Such as putting enchantments on armor, you're able to increase a certain skill, or, well, even provide protection against certain dangerous magics. And of course, if you enchant a weapon, you can also put, or well, make it so you can deal a certain type of magic damage through the weapon itself. And of course you've got your spells, you've got healing spells, you've got your destruction spells if you want to cast some harmful spells at people. You've also got the power of illusion, which you can use to bend the minds and the will of people and creatures to whatever you want them to do, whether you want them to fight each other, whether you just want to calm them down, or whether you just want them to run away from you in fear. And of course you've got the powers, and as I talked about, each race has their own individual power, but you also unlock powers throughout the game itself, such as the power to turn into a werewolf or a vampire lord, which are probably some of the most exciting ones. And you've also got powers that allow you to, well, cause massive explosions or to resurrect multiple dead corpses around you in a single blow. And of course there's the main focus on Skyrim, which is the shouting mechanic, which is basically like your powers, but it's something that's more tied to you as the player rather than something that any character can have. And you've got different shouts which also do different things, and you can, well, find videos and obviously look up on guides for all the basic shouts and all the cooler ones as well. Enemies, enemies, enemies. Boy, does Skyrim have a lot of enemies, and not just basic types of enemies like the AI in BFN. No, I'm talking about proper variety in enemies and things that you can fight. You've got everything from the creatures and animals that you find in the wild, to NPCs such as bandits and even town guards if you're someone who likes to be on the side of crime. And on top of that, you've also got the Draugr, which are basically ancient Nords, which you could say are kind of like the zombies in the Elder Scrolls universe. But then you've also got even more unique enemies, such as dwarven automatons, literal robots in a fantasy medieval based world. Yeah, I know, it sounds crazy. And a unique thing about those particular enemies is the fact that because they're machines, they can't be affected by things that, well, biological opponents can be harmed by. And on top of that, through DLCs, you can also fight even more unique enemies. Dawnguard introduced enemies known as gargoyles, and man, I must say, they are quite a unique thing to fight. But of course, with this being Skyrim, one of the main enemies I've got to bring up, and quite possibly one of the funnest enemies to fight in the entire game, has to be the dragons by far. Dragons are unlike any other opponent that you will fight in Skyrim. They are the largest opponents of them all, and they fight in two different styles. They can fight on the ground and in the air. Whilst the dragon is in the air, they'll be flying at blazing speeds, meaning that you'll have to resort to ranged spells and bows and arrows in order to knock them out of the sky. On ground, they will try to use their fire breath and also try to bite you up close. But also on ground, it also means that you can also get up close yourself with your own melee weapons. I gotta tell you, every time I've come across a dragon and battled it in Skyrim, it has always been so much fun and it's never got boring. Each dragon fight feels like a boss. You could say they're kind of like a mini boss you come across every once in a while, with some even being part of scripted events, which makes the whole experience even more great. As an open world game, Skyrim is full of quests, which include main quests, quest lines, and even side quests, but some side quests in Skyrim are more than your typical go to this location and kill said bandit, or go to this location to get said item. No, some quests are more than that. An example of this is a quest in a small town called Mare, where the Jarl tasks you with investigating what happened to a house which burnt down recently. When going into this house, you come across the ghost of a young girl called Helgi, who tells you the tragic tale of how she unfortunately came to pass, but also tells you that in order to figure out more about what happened to the house, you're going to have to find her during the night, as she fears that someone is spying on her. And in order to figure out where Helgi will be during the night, you can either just explore around Mare during the night, or you can simply just go back to the Jarl, who will tell you the immediate answer. Once you find Helgi during the night, she'll tell you one of the people she believes were involved with her house burning down, while living in the town, and where her father is currently staying. And after this conversation, you get attacked by a vampire. After disposing of the vampire, someone who I'll refer to as the moron will run up weeping about this vampire, as this vampire turned out to be his wife. And after having an argument with this moron, you go to the house of the person which Helgi told you was involved. Whilst going in to get evidence against them, the person for me ended up waking up, so I decided to get a little justice for our young Helgi. After this, I returned to the Jarl, who had suddenly learned how to levitate, and she thanked me for investigating and figuring out what happened to the house and how it burnt down, but then also tasked me with going to a cave to wipe out some vampires nearby. And as I was going out to do this, the moron and a group of commoners that he had scavenged up wanted to come with me for the ride. So we travelled to this lair, and of course as we reached the entrance, most of the commoners ended up leaving and, well, going back to Mare, but the moron wanted to stay with me. So I accepted the moron's help. We went in, killed every vampire in sight, searched for a bit of treasure, and as we were coming to the exit of the lair, Helgi thanked me for avenging her and her mother, and could finally be able to rest in peace. After this, I went back to the Jarl, who was still learning how to levitate, and graciously rewarded me for my efforts. This was a quest that for me brought up some of the many morals that can sometimes appear in Skyrim, and I enjoyed every bit of it. And as fun as some side quests are in Skyrim, of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of this part, you've also got the main quest line and other quest lines in the game as well. In short, the main quest line, you learn that your character is an ancient warrior known as the Dragonborn, someone who's capable of being able to take a dragon's soul after slaying it. And the whole destiny based around the Dragonborn is that you have to go up and defeat the main antagonist of the game known as Alduin. But you've also got other quest lines in the game as well, which also work out well content-wise. You've got the Companions questline, which is all based around being a warrior. You've got the College of Winterhold, which is all based around being a mage or a witch, all about wizardry and magic. You've also got the Dark Brotherhood, which is based around being an assassin if you want to go down that path as your character. And then of course there's also the Thieves Guild, which, based by its name, is all about being a thief. All of these different quest lines in the game aren't just fun to play as, but they can further define your character or what you want your character to be. And another good thing about these quest lines is they also take you off to different locations. And also the DLCs also provide some fun quest lines as well. And as I just said before about locations, locations can make the quests and questlines feel really fun, and that's the next thing I'd like to talk about. I've waited so long for this moment in this part of the video. You see, one of the things that I really enjoy about video games, for any video game which has one of these, is an open world. You see, as much as I enjoy playing shooters such as Battle for Neighborville, I really do enjoy a good open world game. And Skyrim does this like any other game, except with Skyrim it just feels like it hits really well. You see, Skyrim being based in a fantasy medieval-like time, of course is able to make its world, well, medieval and fantasy, and do whatever it wants with it. You see, in Skyrim you've got many different landscapes, from lovely plain fields to incredible forests to the highest of mountaintops to snowy-like biomes, to even, you could say, a more apocalyptic kind of land as well. Each of these areas feel absolutely opened up and alive, with the game offering these things called random encounters for when you're going around the world. You've got a chance of one of these random encounters happening where you can come across maybe bandits coming to kill you, hired thugs hired by someone you've wronged coming to teach you a lesson, to even something as simple as some random person wandering around telling you certain lies. Skyrim also has multiple locations dotted around the landscapes, including the many cities you're able to explore, to the smaller towns based around the world, and then you've even got your bandit encampments and dungeons and caves spread across the lands as well, for anyone with more of that adventurous and combat-like spirit who would rather go in and murder a bunch of people to get to the final treasure chest. Skyrim also has more interesting areas to explore which aren't like your typical outdoor area. They're not like your typical field or forest. An example of this is the Soule Cairn. The Soule Cairn in Skyrim is a place where unfortunate souls that were soul trapped in life have to spend the rest of eternity. And to me, this area reeks of sorrow, sadness, and just straight up of feeling alone. You see, the Soule Cairn is a very unusual and scary place. It's a place that you want to explore, but also a place that you don't want to stay in for too long. It has that very creepy vibe about it. And that's something which really intrigued me when I was exploring the Soule Cairn as a whole. Coming across these lost souls, confused about where they were, why they were there, why they couldn't return to normal life. Those kind of things is what interested me into staying and exploring the Soule Cairn a bit more, whilst at the same time making me want to leave it. You see, these different locations in Skyrim is what keeps you interested in playing the game, as well as what gets you interested in the lore behind these locations. Another interesting location that can be explored in Skyrim as well is a location known as Blackreach, an entire city based underground, a city of a lost civilization that is no longer around. The fact that you're exploring this massive cave full of unique enemies, unique areas, it's just something incredible to come across. And I gotta say, it almost makes me think of the Minecraft Caves and Cliffs update which just came out, which doesn't have its rather big caves yet. And this is probably a meme that might get spread around about it, and a meme that's already been made. You see, a thing which entranced me about Blackreach was the fact that it was so dark yet also had a bit of light about it which entranced me. Buildings and enemies to fight which you wouldn't typically come across up above. These locations are locations which make playing Skyrim an enjoyable experience. It's what makes exploring in Skyrim something you can enjoy. However, if the spooky, dark environments aren't exactly your thing, Skyrim also offers a bunch more beautiful environments, from hidden glades that includes trees and plant life in a cave-like environment, to maybe something such as an ice cave, to even taking something normally associated with horror and darkness and turning it into a thing of beauty. Which is something I truly do like about Skyrim, is it takes some of the regular fantasy concepts and puts a bit of a twist on them. And of course, through the use of DLC, Skyrim also gets a bunch of new locations as well, each of these new locations being unique and beautiful in their own right. The one I've got up on screen at the moment is known as the Forgotten Vale, quite possibly one of the most beautiful locations in all of Skyrim. And I've got to tell you, as someone who's played through the game probably well over 10 times, to keep coming to this location and still be blown away by it has to say something about the game itself. You see, the game gives off a feeling of freedom due to the fact that you're able to go to any place anytime you want and do what you want to do in the game at any point as well. And on top of that, with music playing in the background, it makes each location feel unique and really immerses you in the gameplay. This section of the video has been one I've really been looking forward to do it, and I'm really glad I've been finally able to cover it. Skyrim also has its own array of moments that you can have. Moments that can be funny, scary, a bit of both, and it's also got a few glitches as well. I did make a funny moments video on Skyrim I believe a few months ago, but of course that video wasn't exactly the most popular of the bunch. But I better showcase some of the things that I've come across personally. So I've come across being jump scared by random things that I thought were statues, to seeing my pet cow doing some rather strange thing, to NPCs saying funny things as well, to NPCs glitching out, to even being launched into the sky by a giant. All in all, Skyrim holds a very special place in my heart. I'm very glad that I decided to start a new character over a month ago, as it's really helped me get through my moment of being low and through my, I guess you could say, stage of depression when games such as Garden Warfare 2 and BFN just didn't hit the rocker for me. I'm really glad for the world that has been made, and really thankful for Bethesda, the company who developed and published the game. I'm thankful for all the wonderful worlds they created, the NPCs that you interact with, the people and enemies that you're able to fight. All of these things have really been a great experience for me. All the glitches too, man, I can't tell you how much fun I've had out of coming across certain glitches. But all in all, I've come across some really good moments on Skyrim, and it's really too bad that the last video that I made on Skyrim, or should I say the only video, well, until this one at least, that I made about Skyrim, didn't do particularly well. But I made this video because to me it felt important and I had to make it, to thank Skyrim from the bottom of my heart. So, I do have a few other, well, funny moments and stuff that I found in Skyrim as well, and if any of you are interested and would like to see some of those, then please feel free to leave a comment below, as I do have a bit of a bone to pick with someone as well. But all of you who are still here at the end of this video, I've got to thank all of you as well, since it's probably not very easy to listen to some random person ramble on about their favourite game for over 20 minutes long. Flippin' heck, I've spoken a long time. So I guess maybe just to give it a bit of a good ending, this goes out to a good friend who I was speaking to during one of the moments when I was playing Skyrim. This is for you, Ari.